Yay! Well, hello. A do do do, a do do do, a do 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 do, a do do do, a do do do, a popcorn and a booze. I almost said beer. That was the original title of this show. Yes, folks, we've made it. We are back, like Ghostbusters 2. Remember Ghostbusters 2 when they were like, "We're back, ready to go. We be fast and they be slow." That's right, you guys. Me and Vince are back like Cotter, like Xander, Triple X, baby. Like the Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2. Season 2, you guys. We have made it to season 2. Two. I got two. And I'm too legit to quit. I don't know, I've already done that. I opened the show with Too Legit to Quit sometime last season, so don't mind me, folks. The bottom line is...
Probably
yes,
episode 2, I'm assuming.
I think it was. It was, actually. I was watching that the other day. And you guys should go back, and you should go watch it as well. Recap on our old work so you can understand the new stuff. That's right, folks. Season 2, we have made it back. You guys know me. You guys know me. I know you. That's right, I know you. I got that from Castaway. Vince, I watched Castaway with Tom Hanks not too long ago, and the scene where he gets mad at Wilson and he throws him out of the cave, and then he finds Wilson. He has to repaint him. He's like lost his mind at this point. He really thinks Wilson's real, and he's like painting his face. And he's like, "I know you." I was like, God, Tom Hanks, you're so fucking weird in this movie. What a great film. So yes, you guys know me. Like he knew Wilson. Like Tom Hanks knew Wilson on that island. I am your host with the most, sometimes the least. But when it comes to this microphone and these rhymes, I am a beast. Ow!
Bars
of fire. I go by the name of LAREN Maxstar Moore.
And I am the Peter Venkman of internet variety shows, I guess is what we are. Vince Eustace.
And yes, folks, we are not the Ghostbusters. We just love the Ghostbusters. But what we are is a whole different monster. You guys, you've made it to episode 1, season 2 of Popcorn
And Booze.
All right, look at that. Look at that. Is that Hennessy? You're so black. Look at you drinking black people.
Bottle. I literally Googled bottle of booze and just found with no label. I don't know what that is.
Listen, I just saw some brown shit in my, like Cat Williams said, I went into negative mode and I was like, that's some Hennessy. That he drinking some Hennessy. That's right. I don't even like Hennessy. You guys, yes.
I like Hennessy. Someone had a cool shirt the other day that said I'd say like Henergy or something, and it was like it looked like a Hennessy bottle, but it said Henergy instead. And I thought it was pretty cool. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you got me excited about Hennessy.
It actually reminds me of, and you know this song, a song I did with BC called "These Days," and I got a bar where I said I got so much energy that you would think that my voice box was made of pure Hennessy, 100 proof, nigga. Anyway, you know the bars of fire. Yes, I have a bar about Hennessy, so I just had to bring that up since we were talking about Hennessy. The funny thing about it, that's not even.
You can
Hennessy,
also get Hennessy at a bar
for a nominal fee.
So that's a Laird bar.
That's right, folks. We're back to the silliness. We're back to the mindless banter and improving and all the silly things we do. Yes, you guys, season 2 of Popcorn and Booze, and I don't really know how to explain it. At this point, if you guys have been watching the first season, you should know what we're all about. We're all about the poppity culture, the hibbity hop, the films. What else, Vince? What else the hell do? We do so much.
Professional wrestling, because you and I are currently in a consistent state of arrested development. But it's fine. We can appreciate the art of sports entertainment. It's not just for kids. We can do it.
No, you're absolutely right, and it's it's funny you say that. Like, my mom was like, I said something to my mom about video games, and she's like, "You're a grown man." I was like, "I fucking still watch wrestling." What? What are you saying? Of course, video games.
But I feel like video games also, like that's become a thing where like people compete in video game competitions. Like, you
Right.
can make money off of it. I feel like it's more socially acceptable now to play video games. Because it used to be like, oh, like, I mean, when you're kids, you play it, but then it's like, oh, nerds play video games. But now it's like, I don't play them. But that doesn't say anything about me. But I'm saying everyone plays video games. It's like
Yeah, I'm a gamer.
very, not cool, but it's like, gamers are like a real thing.
It really is, and I'm a gamer. I don't game as much, but I'm a gamer. I'm more of a retro gamer and a console gamer. I don't do the PC or the online stuff so much, but
You're definitely not PC.
no. I know what that meant, and I'm not going to acknowledge it. All right, moving on. I'm going to respectfully decline. You respectfully decline. Inside joke, folks.
This is
Well,
probably the
no, not
longest
really.
intro
It's
ever.
not really an inside joke, actually. It's if you go to
Oh yeah, you talked about it.
It was the Broken Complex episode I did. It's the whole Sire thing. Hilarious. I was recapping that, and I just thought of that right now. You guys, we would be bring. I hate to bring the tone down quite a bit right now, Vince, and to our viewers, but all jokes aside, we would be incredibly remiss if we did not acknowledge something that took place, I believe, 2 to 3 weeks ago, August 28th, I believe. I remember when I got the news. I was actually working a job at the time doing deliveries. I was on one of my deliveries, and I literally had to sit. I was actually on my way to a delivery, and then I think I saw it on Facebook or somebody called me. I don't remember. And I got the news about Mr. Chadwick Boseman passing away at the tender young age of 43. Young man. To the point, it was so unexpected that I literally I sat in my car and fought back tears. I know people will be like, "Well, you don't even know him." He was one of my inspirations as a black actor, as an actor. Period. Um, I've told you this before, Vince. There's a lot of as an actor, as a young actor, I'm in my 30s. As a young actor, I look up to actors who are in my age range and even older, and he was one of the people I was inspired by, and still is inspired to be a leading. He was the epitome of an up and coming leading strong black actor, a leading man, and him and there's quite a few Childish Gambino, Donald Glover, of course the OGs, Will Smith, Jamie Foxx. There's quite a few leading men, Denzel, of course, Washington. There's quite a few leading men that I attribute to me being inspired to do what I do, and Chadwick he was one of them. He was one of the newcomers, and he was well on his way, and we have lost him, folks. He had a 4-year battle with cancer, colon cancer, that I did not know about. Nobody knew. Nobody knew. It wasn't just me. The entire world didn't know. He kept it very secret. I believe his family knew, obviously. His wife, obviously. I feel sorry for that woman. Wow, do I feel terrible for her. But he had a 4-year battle, and unfortunately, the cancer, I don't want to say won the battle, but he lost. He lost the battle to the cancer. There's nothing to win when cancer takes your life. You just kind of lose that battle. You fight. He fought for 4 years, and unfortunately, his body just succumbed to the cancer, and he passed away, sadly. So I want to say R.I.P. to him. Vince, I know you got a couple things. I know he was a favorite of yours as well.
Yeah. Like you said, it came out of nowhere. I remember Maritza and I were watching my friend's internet show, Sims TV, that I write on, and we were right about to debut my Joe Biden impression on a pre-recorded presidential debate. We were literally seconds away from it, and she and I both got on our tablets the news alert that said Chadwick Boseman dies at 43 at cancer, and we literally screamed like, "What?" Because it's just one of those things that you don't. It came out of nowhere. Like you said, no one knew about it. There was no talk about him being sick at all. So we basically didn't we didn't even really watch my bit on my friend's show. We were just kind of looking up what was going on with Chadwick, and I think it's amazing that like you said, he was battling colon cancer for 4 years. The work he did in that 4-year span
Incredible.
which was not only incredible acting but physical work. He did all
strenuous.
Became he became Black Panther with colon cancer. He did Captain America: Civil War with the cancer. He did
four Marvel movies.
He did the Black Panther movie and then the 2 Avengers movies. And no one, the closest anyone knew anything, and no one knew it was cancer. Like, I remember at the NBA All-Star Weekend, the dunk contest, I think he was one of the judges. I remember he looked really small and thin, especially compared to the other judges who were former basketball players.
It was the weight loss. That was the only thing anybody noticed, was the weight loss. That's what I noticed.
And all I thought, one, oh, he just looks small compared to these NBA guys, which he is. And 2, I was like, oh, he's probably losing weight for a role. Like, he's probably Christian Bale-ing it. He's probably put on muscle for this, but then he's doing another role, so he probably lost a little weight. That's the only thing I thought of it. And then we find out later in hindsight that he'd been secretly battling cancer. And it was crazy. There was this one interview while he was doing Black Panther where I guess there was some kid through Make-A-Wish or something that met him and was inspired by him and then passed away. And he was so upset about that, but also just lavished so much praise on this child, being like, oh, they're so brave and what they went through. And looking back in hindsight, seeing that, being like, you're going through the same thing. Like, it's really, even now, like you said, it happened at the end of August, and we're already midway, almost done with September, and it's still it's hard to deal with. And he, like you said, he was an incredible actor, and you said he lost his battle, and he did. But I feel like, all right, if he knew he was on borrowed time, like what he did with that time was just like untouchable.
And
we were watching. Sorry, real quick before, and then I'll kick it back to you because this will be the last thing I say. Oh, we rewatched Jackie Robinson 42.
Yeah,
and there was a scene like where the little kid who's black like comes up to him and they're like, oh, you're like our hero. And I was like, yeah, like what you're doing is more than playing baseball. You're an inspiration to these kids who now look at you and are like, I can do that. And Maritza and I were just amazed at the parallels between that and Black Panther that he would do later, because he became a black superhero in an incredible Marvel Cinematic Universe. He was one of the big stars in that. And now young black kids can look and be like, hey, look, there's someone who looks like me who can be a superhero.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, like you said, it's 2 weeks off, almost 3 at this point. And we couldn't mention it because we were on a hiatus. We had wrapped when he passed, we had already wrapped season 1. But I just felt that it was something we do need to speak on the show publicly, and it needs to be put on film and recorded about how each of us felt and feel about Chadwick. And you're right. He 42 and Black Panther are probably at this point his 2 most inspirational films, because he played not only a black figure that was, passed off as a hero. He embodied it, and at this point, especially with Black Panther, because it was just a big Marvel film and it was so crossover, and I hate to use that word because I feel that us as African Americans at this point should not be crossing over into anything. We shouldn't have to get that, well, you're going to do something for the white crowd now. Like, I don't necessarily agree with that, but it kind of was a big thing because it was the first black movie, or black based movie, I should say. It wasn't a black movie, but it was a black based movie, surrounded around Africa and Wakanda and all that. To not only be nominated for Best Picture, but it was one of the highest grossing black based films of all time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think any other black based or black, in the director Ryan Coogler has an accolade under his belt, and Chadwick as well. He dies with a legacy now because this movie broke boundaries. It was the first superhero film to be nominated for an Academy Award, and it's the highest grossing black film by a black filmmaker probably of all time in the history. And there have been some big African American based movies or African based movies. So that's an accolade within itself. So my point of saying that is, it's to the point now even little white kids are looking up to Chadwick and saying, "Wow, that's my hero. Black Panther's my hero." You know, even Hispanic kids, even Asian, you know, anybody of the non-black, non-African American persuasion. He set a precedence to where any kid now is saying Black Panther is my hero. You know, there's footage of like white kids wearing Black Panther stuff and saying Wakanda
Yeah.
forever, and it's not because it's cultural appropriation. No, it's because they were actually inspired by this character and by Chadwick's performance. So really, to wrap this up, you know, rest in peace to that man. You know, me and my mom were watching Get On Up, his betrayal of James Brown just yesterday. We were watching the film.
Jeez, he was
And you
so
want to
good in
talk,
that.
he was amazing. He was so damn good. He embodied James Brown. And I grew up, just like a lot of people, especially our age, grew up with a lot of his later stuff because, you know, James Brown is way before our time. But we grew up knowing James Brown and hearing his music, especially in us being hip-hop heads. How many hip-hoppers have sampled James Brown? My God. I've lost count.
Like funky drum,
He's one of the,
like basically old break beats are all James Brown drums.
He's one of the most sampled artists in hip hop. So watching so I knew James Brown's mannerisms, I knew his music. So to watch Chadwick do him, it was incredible because I hadn't really actually sat and watched the entire movie. But it was also it was a hard watch. It was a hard watch knowing this man is no longer with us. And
Yeah.
to wrap it up, just rest in peace to Chadwick. My condolences to him. My condolences to his wife, his lovely wife. I feel so bad for that woman. I really do. But just recently, they had his funeral, or let's kick that off. That situation. Why don't you lead us into that, Vince?
Basically, they just he was finally, the reason why we can sort of talk about it as a story now, even though we want to talk about it earlier, was that recently, September 3rd, he was laid to rest in his hometown, Belton, South Carolina, at the Welfare Baptist Church Cemetery. So he's finally been laid to rest, but his legacy is going to live forever.
Absolutely. And to his family, his wife, and to even you, Chad, I'll see you when I get there, brother. You was and still are a inspiration to me as a black actor, an aspiring black. I hope to be a leading man, just like you were one day. So R.I.P., my friend. All right. What do we got next? It's hard to segue from that into the jolly old popcorn and beer.
There's really no way to do it.
That was rough. That was rough for me, and I know that was rough for you.
I'll connect the dots. You were talking earlier about gamers, and like you're not really a gamer. You're more into retro gaming, which is probably why you brought the story to our attention.
Yeah.
There's a Super Mario Brothers movie, a CGI movie. I think it's Universal, and the same people who did the Despicable Me are going to do a Super Mario Brothers full-length feature film.
Sorry, just had to. You know, I
think you're more excited about this than I am, because I was not a big fan of the Super Mario Brothers movie from '93. But I just found out that you actually think it's the greatest movie of all time. Please elaborate on that.
I mean, Oscar worthy, my friend. Oscar worthy. The performances in that film are the lights of Robert De Niro and Al Pacino and Denzel and Morgan Freeman. See, what you don't understand, Vince, is that when they made that film, they didn't have you in mind. They were thinking about me. And that's the problem with you haters who don't like the Mario Brothers movies, because you think everything's about you. No, it's about LAREN. That's what it's all about. And when
it wasn't just about you.
Oh, yes, it was.
As I pull it up on IMDb,
yes, it was.
Got a 4.1 out of 10 on IMDb, which is quite terrible.
Listen,
critics.
That's four more than you've ever had, Vince. That's
actually not true. That's actually not true at all. I'll prove it on another day. I've got movies that definitely outrank that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
so maybe next time, don't talk out the side of your neck unless you know what you're talking about.
King of wishful thinking. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Continue.
And you call me a hater, and then you throw hate my way, bring me into it. when actually my films have actually, from an IMDb standpoint, scored higher. But John Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins, the great late Bob Hoskins himself, have both gone on record saying it's the worst thing they've ever done. They hated it. They got drunk every day while on set because they couldn't stand doing it. They just liked hanging out with each other and getting drunk. Bob Hoskins, I think, broke his hand because he was so drunk. And I mean, there's a lot of great behind the scenes stories from it, but the actual finished product was garbage. It's terrible. And,
you know, all joking aside, I will say, as a kid, obviously we're both embellishing. I don't think it's the greatest movie of all time, but I will say, as a kid, I just enjoyed just knowing that they actually brought Super Mario Brothers, one of my favorite childhood games, to the screen. I think that's where more of the excitement was. The actual film,
it was nothing like the video game. It was like watching a completely different movie with just like characters with those names.
Well, I'll explain to you, and I'm sure you know this because you've seen a lot of behind the scenes things over the years. One of the main things the filmmakers wanted to do was make it a dark, grittier version of the Mario Brothers. And I think they did that because they felt if they had did it the actual campy, kiddie way the film was done, especially in a live action form, I think they thought it would have sucked. I think they just didn't have faith in, let's just, the term of, if it ain't fixed, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think they were just afraid to just leave it as is. And maybe they should have. They actually should have. But they tried to make it dark and give it a gritty overtone, and it turned into this whole post-apocalyptic, kind of dark, weird, with some comedy, that nothing really to do with Mario Brothers, but we're going to name the characters after the Mario Brothers type of finished product is what, that's what that turned out to be. And as a kid, I still was like, okay, well, fuck it, I don't care. It's still the Mario Brothers. That's fun. But in hindsight, I will say as an adult, it was sloppy. It was very sloppy, very sloppily made. One of the sloppiest video game to movies ever made. But in my opinion, and we talked about this earlier, in my opinion, not the worst ever. To me, the worst video game adaptation turned movie in history to me, and there's ones even worse than that, was Mortal Kombat Annihilation, the second one. That was, I remember even then, a 13-year-old watching it in the theaters, and I was just like, wow, this is a big pile of fucking shit. Like, what did they do? They had all these great characters from the game. First of all, they had too many characters, but they still had great characters, and you're just like, they're doing nothing with any of these new characters. They could have done so much. So if you would ask my opinion, I think Mortal Kombat Annihilation is by far the worst video game movie of all time, especially sequel. It was just trash.
Keep in mind keep in mind, video game movies adaptations as a genre are, for the most part, historically pretty bad. Like they're all pretty terrible.
Mortal Kombat's probably the best one, the first one. That's probably one of the best ones they actually got right.
Like the best ones are like decent or entertaining, just like on a movie scale. But majority of them are bad. And I actually put Mario Brothers like right there with Mortal Kombat Annihilation. They're like scraping the bottom of the barrel together. But
what did you think about the first Mortal Kombat? That was pretty incredible. I loved the first one.
Yeah, that was fun. That was cool. The first Mortal Kombat movie was cool. Yeah. This new Mario Brothers movie is
let's talk about. So
I don't see how it's going to be worse. It can only be better. I think the fact that they got there's going to be more of a Despicable Me type. It'll be fun.
It's going to be a CG movie. It's going to be computer generated. Yeah.
I'm probably not going to see it, but unless I like. If Marissa and I have kids in the future and they want to see it at some point, that's probably how we're going to watch it. But I'm probably not going to watch it on my own.
You would literally have to have kids like next year, like. So you're basically saying, well, until you have kids, you're never going to watch that movie.
Like maybe if I'm babysitting my nephew and niece or something like that, and they want to see it, and obviously I don't have to see it in theaters. I can see it like 10 years from now. I can see it like, I can see it at some point. But I don't see myself rushing to see this movie.
Well, folks, you heard it here first on Popcorn and Booze. Vince just has no faith in the Mario Brother franchise, period. Even the video games. Hater stuff. That's so terrible. I have more faith in you. You're a retro guy like me.
The original cartoon with Captain Lou Albano was like actually pretty cool. And they had like Zelda like on Fridays. That was fun. That was cool. And again, I was like in first grade at the time. But nowadays, like I just don't. I mean, I know there's a lot of different stories and worlds they can probably go base upon to make it better than the 93 version. But yeah, I just like what speaks to me as like a man pushing like 40. Like, when am I going to be like, oh, besides nostalgia? And there's a lot of nostalgia. Like, I'll watch Ninja Turtle movies. If there's a new one comes out, I'll watch that. But like Mario Brothers, which I loved as a kid, I don't know. I'm just not going to. I don't know. I'm just not. Of course, watch the trailer come out, and I'll be like, "Oh, this looks great." So when the Sonic trailer came out, I was like, "That looks cool," and I still haven't seen that yet.
I haven't watched all of it either.
It depends on who they get too, because they got Jim Carrey. They got Jim Carrey and Sonic. What if they got someone really cool to be in this? I might be like, "Oh,
Bowser."
Like, what if Childish Gambino is like Bowser or something like that?
What if they bring Dennis Hopper back from the dead, and he could reprise his character, reprise his role as King Koopa or President Koopa, as he was called in the '93 version? Wouldn't that be something?
Doesn't make any sense. Why would he be president? Why would he be president? None of this makes sense.
I know. It's a tough pill to swallow. I didn't think it was so bad at the time. In hindsight, pretty shitty. But
I knew it was bad at the time.
You know, Steven.
And I thought everything. I thought Three Ninjas was great at the time. It sucks now.
Surf Ninjas.
So many movies were good back. I realized Surf Ninjas I thought was entertaining.
I told you that's the movie that did it.
That's bad.
That's what made me an entertainer. That's what made me an actor. Was fucking Surf Ninjas.
but Super Mario Brothers was a movie that's like I can't even pretend. Like, I can't even be like, oh, this is great. It's like, this is bad. This is not.
And you know what even made it worse? You know what made that movie? I don't think it did that good in the theaters either. But you know what really drowned that movie out? I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. They had to have known. They tried to release it relatively around the time the first Jurassic Park came out too. So they didn't have a chance in hell. Yeah. They didn't have a chance in hell. I guess they thought, well, it's Super Mario. That's bigger than a dinosaur movie. Listen, Steven Spielberg blew their asses out the water.
And we'll make Dennis Hopper a dinosaur, right? So everybody wins.
Hey, listen.
I think Theodore Rex by Whoopi was better than Super Mario Brothers.
You know, when we bring her back on the show, we'll have to ask her about that and her experience filming Theodore Rex. Listen, you guys, when is the new one coming out? Next year? Is it 20 or 2022?
Looks like 2022 is what they're aiming for.
Okay, so they're going to wait. They're obviously, I mean, it's not a live-action film. It's a computer animated movie, but it looks like they're going to, a lot of these big movies they're trying to release, they're trying to wait for COVID to kind of die down. So we got a while before it comes out, but let's have high hopes for this one. Let's think positively, Vince. Yeah, this might be a blockbuster.
I'm thinking realistically. I'm thinking very realistically, and it very well. It actually probably will make a lot of money. It's probably going to be a big success at the box office. If
it'll be better.
And Sonic has shown us anything, it'll probably make a lot of money, and it'll probably be even better than I'm giving it credit for right now. But I have that bad taste in my mouth of the '93 version.
And apparently the directors were
cautious.
Apparently the directors of that movie were like a couple, and they were like married. They were two British filmmakers, and according to like Bob Hoskins and who rest in peace, he's no longer with us. But according to like old interviews with Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo, like they were married and a couple, and they couldn't even get along. They both were like fighting on the set, like I want this done, and she was like, no, I want this done. That's like. He was basically saying they were the most unprofessional filmmakers in the history. So, hey, R.I.P. to Super Mario Brothers '93. Yes. Moving right along. What do we got next, good sir?
We did way too much time on Super Mario Brothers '93, but we're moving on to hip-hop right now, and we're be giving some attention to someone else I feel should not be getting a lot of attention.
Hip-hop, hip-hop. Hip-hop, 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 it all started in the park. Hip-hop, it all started in the park. Hey, you already know what time it is. Your favorite hip-hopper himself. I would not be the man I am today, 40-something years later, if it wasn't for two men. A good shout-out to DJ Kool Hercules and my man DJ Hollywood. I say that like I know them niggas. I've never met them a day in my life, but they are the reason that I myself am a rapper. So shout out to them, the Bronx, that's where it all started. I don't care what none of you fakers say around the world. There are people in Europe saying certain things, in other countries and other states. You know where hip hop started. You all are imitators. You took something that started where I'm from. I'm not from the Bronx, but I'm from New York. I'm from Queens. And there was a big beef between the Bronx and Queens. It was a big thing. But it doesn't matter. It all started in the park on Sedgwick, and damn it, pay homage. Sorry, I get real passionate about hip-hop. Vince, you know how I get. And you have all these fakers talking about where hip hop started. Damn it started in New York. All right, I'm done.
I think I should clarify when I said that we're going to be spending time on someone that we should not be spending time on. I was not talking about you.
Hey,
like the way it segued, it was like, oh, we're about to spend attention on someone that shouldn't get it, and then you started going. Not you, Nick Cannon is who I was referring to. So I just wanted to clear that up in case anyone couldn't connect those dots.
You know what? It took me a minute too. It took me a minute, but I got you now. Here we go.
So Nick Cannon is apparently willing to squash his beef with Eminem. They've been beefing since like what, 2009?
When it started. With
Mariah
Carey.
Always about Mariah Carey. And I get why Nick Cannon, he was married to her at the time, and I totally understand. It's like, you got to stand up for your wife. Like, you have to do something. You can't just stand there and be like, oh, he insulted my wife, it's fine. Like, no, as a man, you have to do something. I don't know if battle rapping, one of the greatest rappers of all time, is the way to go about it. I know he's...
Yeah, I was just about to say he should have stood up for his wife with his hands and not his lyrics.
He did threaten to do that. He was like, "Oh, like let's do a celebrity boxing match."
Yeah, but he still tried to rap, and it just
he did, and that was not good. And they've been
he
going
should have just stuck to the boxing.
And Eminem had some diss tracks. Mariah Carey actually had a better diss track towards Eminem than Nick Cannon has had any diss tracks towards Eminem.
Obsessed. That song, Obsessed.
That was a catchy song
and a good beat.
But Eminem, for the most part, within the rap battle, because Mariah and Nick are doing very well in terms of their careers. So Eminem didn't kill their careers, but he won them clearly. And then Nick Cannon tried to revive it recently and actually released 3 diss tracks. Forget the names of all of them because they're all very forgettable, but he enlisted a bunch of battle rappers.
Wildin' Out.
Yeah. And they were decent. I mean, they're obviously great. I think within the context of what they were supposed to do with Nick, it was like, oh, I've seen better from you guys. Nick was terrible. Eminem won the battle without even spitting a single rhyme. He was just like, he was quiet. And it's like, all right, he won. But now Nick apparently is willing to squash the beef. He wants to, I guess, but it's weird. How do you feel about this? Because Nick Cannon will flip flop. He'll be like, oh, he and I don't get along, but he's one of the greatest rappers of all time. Then he'll be like, oh, he's one of the most overrated guys of all time. He's not even that good. He's like, he's Elvis Presley. He stole everything. So he always goes back and forth in giving Eminem credit for being a talented rapper. But now he's kind of back into the, hey, I respect you. And even though we went through our stuff, I'm willing to sit down like man and sort of squash it. So what's your take on the flip flop, the Nick Cannon bars, just any of this?
Well, here's the thing. I do think Nick Cannon is a talented guy, not so much when it comes to rapping, but as far as being able to multitask as a performer, he not very well, but he raps, he acts, he does comedy, he's done some dramatic work. He single-handedly saved Nickelodeon. But he was one of the key players for Viacom until that whole anti-Semitic thing happened. He was like the man at Viacom, and then he obviously ruined that. So I've actually met Nick Cannon a couple times years ago. The first time I met Nick Cannon, I used to be, and I think I brought this up during the Max Star episode from last season when you were interviewing me. I was a dancer on the show Soul Train in the early 2000s as a youngster, and he came on to perform. And I don't know if you know anything about Soul Train, when you filming Soul Train, the performers when they come on, they lip sync to their tracks. They lip sync to their records. It's not an actual live performance. And he came on and he performed. I'm a gigolo, thinking that's a whole
another show.
Right, with piece of shit R. Kelly, who, by the way,
Pied Piper.
Yeah, right. Who is a piece of shit, but I don't care what you say. I still love R. Kelly's music. I don't care about him.
It's great. It's great. It's great music.
I'm not going to change my mind.
Legendary.
I've got so many women. Upset at me. I've got so many people upset at me. I don't support the man. His music and him, that's two fucking different things. I like the music. But anyway, he came on Soul Train, performed. I got to meet him. He was real nice. And then I met him some years later. I used to host a karaoke gig at Saddle Ranch on Sunset, and him and DJ D-Rec, his DJ that's on Wild 'N Out, used to come there every Tuesday with their entourage. They would bring like 150 groupie chicks, and they would like fill up the back half of the bar. And he was real cool. I used to go over there. I used to chop it up with him. So no personal knock to Nick Cannon. I do think what this whole Eminem thing is, I think he's just incredibly bitter. He did not win, and I think he's even more bitter that he had no chance in winning. When he went, and he's admitted this, when he went into this battle, quote unquote, defending Mariah, fair enough, that was his wife at the time. He knew he was going to get slaughtered lyrically. He knew it wasn't going to fare well for him, but I think he still thought, you know, I've got Mariah, I've got the star power right now. Maybe I could drown Eminem out with my star power, and none of it worked. People were just like laughing at Nick Cannon, and they were like, dude, you know, the one, it was called, what was the diss track Eminem did?
The Warning?
The Warning, yes. He did that diss track, The Warning. He did one. I think Nick Cannon did like 2 or 3 back then too, just like he did just currently. I think he did a few. Mariah did Obsessed. And like you said, her Obsessed was better than all the diss tracks Nick Cannon combined have done.
Yeah.
Even recently, not just the old ones, not just the 09 ones. I'm talking about the ones he did last year. Compared to all of those, Obsessed won that. Mariah Carey had a better chance getting at Eminem than Nick Cannon did, and it's kind of sad. I think he's just bitter, man. I think he's mad that he really wanted to stick it to Eminem. And when he could not beat him lyrically, he started threatening him. He started basically telling him, yo, let's box. I'll fight you, da-da-da-da. And I'm sure Eminem ain't no punk, but who, when you're that famous and you've got that much money, you've got that much to lose, who the fuck is going to go meet up and fight? Like, you see all these celebrities, especially rappers, talking shit to each other on social media, talking about, yeah, nigga, when I see you, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You know, you got rappers like The Game, who I'm not a big fan of, but I'm not a big fan of his social media presence. He doesn't do it as much because he's older, but there was just a time where The Game was just threatening everybody. He was just, I'll beat your ass. He was running up on people with cameras and punching them up and doing all this. And I was just like, bro, calm down with all that. Like, you're not proven to be this tough guy. That's not intimidating. That's annoying. And I think there's a lot of rappers that do that. And they'll and it's like, are you really going to risk your career and all that money you have and all your success to fight, to go like you're in high school, to go meet at the playground and get it on? Like, come on, who does that? Grown ass man. And I think Nick Cannon resorted to that, and it didn't, and he evoked no reaction from Marshall. And I think still to this day, he just is like, fuck Marshall, I didn't win. But he also wants to save face. Not so much with Eminem, but he wants to just save face with the hip-hop community and his fans. So he backpedals and he goes, well, no, but he is the greatest, and let's squash the beef. Nick Cannon is so confused about this whole thing. And like I said, I have no ill will towards Nick Cannon. I've met him a couple times. He's a great dude. I just think he's got such a sour taste in his mouth about this whole Eminem thing. And that's really my opinion, really. You know? And meanwhile, Mariah Carey don't give a fuck about neither one of these. He's a billionaire, a legend, and she's just like, fuck both of you niggas. Like, I don't give a fuck about neither one of you now at this point. And they're still at it over her.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Much power to Nick Cannon. I wish him the best.
All right. Springboarding off the Eminem diss track thing. And I feel Nick Cannon shouldn't. You said he's probably bitter. He shouldn't. Granted, when you take that public and out, like, I get it, but I don't think he should take it to heart too much, because Eminem has left a pile of figurative bodies in his wake in terms of like rap battles, like
MGK being the most recent.
And if we want to kick off with that, we can. I think without a doubt that's the battle that people will say, oh, this is the biggest fight Eminem's gotten. This was like the closest he's gotten to an actual challenge.
With MGK,
and you and I have talked about this, and I know the MGK track, like, it was catchy and it got a lot of traction, but I wasn't that impressed with it. And we call me a stan, call me an Eminem guy. It was like, I felt everything that they were saying, all the positive notes that it got was like, oh, he's spitting facts. And it's like, no, he's doing graveyard insults. And a lot of them aren't even accurate. He's like, oh, stop wearing those sweatsuits and those funny hats. Let's talk about it. And it's like, you mean the ones he wore in like 2002? Because he's wearing like regular clothes now. He's wearing like basically the black bomber jackets and like little baseball caps. He's not wearing like
all the old references. No, he's not. And all the old references to, you know, I mean, I get it. It's hip hop, so you're gonna take stabs at people's catalog and their body of work. But even some of the jabs he was taking about the real Slim Shady, and it's like, dude, you're still bringing up shit. You're bringing up shit rappers brought up to him when he was doing those things 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Why are you still making the real Slim Shady please stand up jokes? Like, okay, it was catchy, you know, the whole Norda track.
Yeah, like the beat was good. MGK is like, okay, he had a good flow to it, and I think when you listen to it at first, you're like, that sounds good, and then when you actually break down the lyrics, you're like, wait a second, these are kind of like toothless bars. Like there's no bite to them. They're like very lukewarm.
And simple.
I noticed something also.
Very simple.
Yeah, something MGK did also, same thing, not Nick Cannon necessarily, but like the Nick Cannon diss tracks with battle rappers from Wildin' Out. All these like battle tracks towards Eminem all say he's great. They're like one of the Nick disses was like, he is nice, but like I'm gonna kill him. And then like MGK was like, oh yeah, we get it, you're the greatest of all time. And it's like, why are you calling him the greatest if this is a diss track?
He says it. Eminem actually makes a point of saying that in the Kill Shot. He's like, compliment me in 1 minute, then diss me in the next. Like what are you doing? I don't know.
Yeah, and Kill Shot was so layered. Like Kill Shot's like Arrested Development, the TV show. It was like where you go back and listen to rewatch it, and you find new things. You're like, oh my god, I didn't even catch that wordplay or that reference. It was, I feel, a much underrated diss track.
It was, and I do, and I honestly think that was kind of a love tap. Like I think Eminem could even went harder, but it was a waste of time to even, you know, when you're at that level and you've accomplished that much and you've bodied so many people battle wise, commercially and underground. Because think about it, before Eminem even became famous, he was slaughtering people in the rap Olympics and in the battle scene from an underground standpoint. So he's got quite the track record, like a lot of rappers at his stature do. You know, Jay-Z's and the DMX and Busta Rhymes, and they all come from the battle scene. They were battling at one point. Myself, Max Starr, I come from the battle scene. When I was 16, 17, I had to battle. And if you weren't tough with your bars, if you weren't saying personal shit, you weren't considered considered one of the boys. Battling is essential in hip hop. I'm sorry. And that's why a lot of these rappers these days that are young they're very spoiled because they don't have to touch that cloth. Nowadays, all you got to do is just mumble and rap and put out a SoundCloud track and go on YouTube. There's no dues to be paid. So I come from that. I'm old enough to say that I came from that same era where you had to get at a motherfucker lyrically if you wanted to be respected. And MGK, the whole MGK Eminem thing was just like, I don't know. MGK definitely, he says he wasn't, but he was definitely trying to do his best to get some clout. He was definitely clout chasing when he did that Eminem thing. And I know a lot of people say, well, no, he wasn't. Yeah, he dropped the EP like, what, a week later? So they're telling me that wasn't promotion for that? Like, come on. But
and you bring this up also, like, in terms of clout chasing, I'm pretty sure, and there's like theories about this, that he had been baiting Eminem for a very long time. And so then when he heard Eminem diss him on, I guess, that one album he did,
Kamikaze.
There was video of him popping champagne. He was popping champagne and he like celebrating, and then he like put out a song the next day, and then try to play it off like, oh man, he wrote a rebuttal, and it's like, no, I think he had this stuff already kind of planned out, and then he kind of like added another verse at the very end, and then there's like not a hook or a bridge that it had nothing to do with Eminem or MGK that he recycled on his EP, and one of the YouTube videos that kind of break down the bars pointed out, it's like, what does this like little bridge like between verse 3 and 4 have to do with anything?
All of a sudden, yeah.
It's like, oh, something like, oh, long road, da, 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 da. I forget what it was, but then it popped up on his EP as like a hook, and it's like, oh, that's where it was. He just took the hook from this song and then kind of just copy and pasted it into this song just because it sounded kind of cool.
Yeah, MGK, he lost that battle. I don't care what nobody
What's
says.
your favorite Eminem diss track towards someone?
Yeah, I was actually going to say, I would say there's been so many, and I've heard just about, you know, like I was telling you earlier, and I've even said this in other episodes, me and my hip-hop head buddies and backpack, you know, rapper buddies, because we were all rappers and we were just all about that lyricism and that lyrical, you know, being that way and living that backpack life. Dude, if you weren't huddled around the computer or huddled around your radio waiting for that new Eminem diss, you just weren't living back then. So I've heard all of them since I was a kid, at least definitely a majority of them. I would have to say the most disrespectful one I remember hearing, there's been quite a few, but in my opinion, the most disrespectful one Eminem and the best, one of the best, that Eminem did was the Nail in the Coffin diss he did to Benzino. The one that goes, I don't want to be like this. I don't really want to hurt no feelings. That's actually I'm only being real when I say nobody wants to hear the grandfather rap. Now, he just said so much disrespectful and clever shit to one of the most scathing lines in that whole diss track is what he tells Benzino. He's like, what you know about being bullied over half your life? Oh, that's right. You should know what that's like. You're half white. I was like, whoa. When I heard that as a kid, I was like, whoa, burn. You should know what that's like. You're half white. And he is. Benzino is half white. That, to me, I would have to say that one. The one he did, Nail in the Coffin was good. The one he did, oh, God, what was another good one?
He did. Oh God,
the one. What's that again?
Bully. I like Bully. He did Benzino okay. Also.
The one him and Do Re Mi. Yeah, the Bully with the Bully.
Do Re Mi was good.
The one with him and D12 and Obi Trice, just ripping to shreds. Matter of fact, that was towards the end of the whole Murder Inc. and Aftermath, Shady Records, G Unit beef. That was kind of the end of it, and I believe that was one of the tracks that put the nail in the coffin because you could tell Eminem was pissed. Like he was like, I'm going to, when they recorded that track, he told D12, we need to end them. There's no, if you listen to that song, the shit he says, even the intro when he's like, Haley, bring Daddy Azasa. We're going to shove it up Ja Rule's ass. Like,
yeah, he did the intro, hook, and then like some ad-libs in between, but like all the rapping was basically like Obi and D12.
Yeah.
Like
he didn't even have to say anything.
He did the hook and then was screaming in the background, and that was like enough.
And he was not playing. He was dead ass serious. You could tell the aggression. He was sick of Benzino and Ja Rule at that point. I would have to say those are my top two. There's so many. You know, he used to battle with Cannabis. He had a few little digs at Cannabis. I think
Cannabis was a good one. Cannabis was a good diss track. Yeah.
Cannabis, I would say, these, in my opinion, were Eminem's greatest actual rivals, to where people that could actually somewhat hang with him. MGK, I'm not a fan, but I will say MGK at least hung with Eminem. Cannabis definitely hung with Eminem. I would say Cage, that rapper Cage, that underground rapper Cage, they had a Detroit thing going. Him and Cage used to go back and forth back in the underground days. And I would say those three were probably his toughest three. Like Benzino didn't have a chance. Ja Rule didn't have a fucking chance. Nick Cannon, forget about it. Don't even get please. God, he's lucky. He's lucky to even be in a hip hop sense. He's lucky to be even breathing the same air as Marshall. So to wrap this up, Eminem's he's not the one to fuck with. Still to this day, this man's what, 50? Unless he did something really personal to me or just kicked off, I have no reason to I would never start a beef with Eminem. And I don't even know if I would finish it. Not that I'm scared of him. I know lyrically I could probably get with Eminem. I can get with any rapper, I think, personally, because at
least more so than Nick Cannon could.
Please. Don't yeah. You know, I know I'm lyrically inclined enough to at least hang with Eminem, but the track record of doing that is just, he would have to do some really fucked up shit for me to just put out a diss record. And for two reasons. One, like, you got to expect you're in for a run for your money. But number two, he's one of my idols. He's in my top 5. So I can't sit there and, you know how they say when your idols become, when you're what is it? Your idols become your rivals. I ain't trying to do all that. You know, and MGK should have thought about that, because it didn't fare well for him. It didn't. So rest in peace to MGK's career.
Well, his rap career, his acting career has actually picked up, and he's doing a lot of punk.
He's doing rock music now.
Rock pop stuff now. Yeah.
Yeah, he's doing rock music now.
Yeah,
dude.
there's that at least.
All right. So what do we got next, good sir?
Moving on to pro wrestling. We got the. I don't know. We were talking about wrestling, and obviously we're during the pandemic with no crowds. But I think, at least stuff I've been watching lately, I've been talking about with my friends, there's been a lot of good stuff happening. In like it's not gonna like feel like the Attitude Era that we grew up in, but there's like the talent's there, and they're starting to sort of construct some good storylines that at least get your attention. Whether they execute them or not, we'll see. But the one that you and I have both talked about, like
as of
this
recent,
has kind of caught our attention, is on Raw, the Hurt Business with MVP,
Cedric,
Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, and Cedric Alexander.
Yeah, those 4 guys, they're killing it right now. And Cedric, is it Cedric or Cedric? Cedric. He just joined the faction. Cedric. He just joined the faction. Yeah. And there's a possibility.
Turned on Ricochet and Apollo Crews.
And Apollo, yeah. You know, because Ricochet calls himself the one and only. Pew, pew. And Cedric didn't like that. Yeah, Cedric didn't like that. He's like, how am I going to be teaming with somebody who calls themselves the one and only? You know, sorry, cutting a promo right here. You know, that's promo cutting 101. You got to talk to the camera when you cut a promo. And you got to smile and be cocky. Ha ha, who do they think they are? I'm the best. That's how you cut a real promo. But there's a possibility. I don't think so, but there's a possibility they might be creating maybe a swerve with Cedric. You know, because if on Raw, I don't know if you noticed, was it this past Raw? I think it was the Raw before. Shelton Benjamin kind of threatened him. Remember, he told him, look, I hope you've really come to grasp with the fact that you belong here, and I hope this isn't just some ruse, because he says if it is, I'm going to be the first to expose you and beat your ass or whatever. So there's a possibility maybe Cedric isn't really a member of the Hurt Business. Maybe he's trying to infiltrate them from within and then bust them out. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I would like for them, especially now, the momentum they have with, as of this recording, the last Raw, which was Retribution, the Antifa sort of faction of men and women coming out.
And by the way, real quick, so I'm not feeling that so far. They need to go ahead and reveal them and just do something with them.
I think it's coming soon. I think they're going to do it soon.
They are. They're going to have to.
But so
not a fan.
When they were sort of attacking, who was it, Keith Lee and Drew McIntyre in the ring, and then
the Hurt Business,
and then the Hurt Business, the music hit. The music sounds great, and then they come out like in their suits, and they're just taking off their jackets slowly, and they're just like cool and cocky and badass, and also because they're heels, but now they're kind of fighting the heels, so they kind of came out as faces.
Tweeners.
They looked so awesome, and like badass. Me and my friends were like in our little chat group and be like, "Oh my god, this was actually awesome! This was so cool to watch." I told you that like if it had been in front of a live audience,
they would have got a pop.
Everyone would have gone nuts. Everyone would have gone absolutely nuts. So I hope because of that and how strong this faction is looking, and they're kind of the buzz of WWE right now, is that they keep Cedric in there and keep it 4. We were talking about like, oh, maybe do we add more people to it or not? Like,
I think they're good.
I don't think they need to. Maybe a woman, like if Ember Moon comes back or something.
A strong black woman would be good.
Yeah. Someone who's underutilized as well. That's what I love about the Hurt Business, is that is that like guys that we love, like Shelton Benjamin and Cedric, who were kind of not getting their push, even though they were super talented. They were kind of making other people look good. Now they're a part of something that's like bigger, and they're in the main event as well. So I love seeing it.
and even Bobby Lashley was kind of stalemated for a little bit. Like they were, they I believe they're still building him up to be the conqueror of Brock Lesnar, but he was kind of shelved a little bit too, or should I say he was Benjamin Shelton, because he's in the group with Benjamin.
Wait! I want
Wait
this.
a minute.
Yeah, it needs to be on me in my look of disapproval.
Okay, that's all right. Well, listen, you can't please them all, especially a hater. All right, so Vince is like, if you don't stop calling me a motherfucking hater, you person, you listen.
Person, you.
You person, you. Let's talk about two things for a minute. I actually almost forgot. My point of bringing this up was two things has occurred because of this. First of all, well, Bobby Lashley is now the United States champ. I don't think they would have even put that title on him had it not been for all this. But let's talk about the fact that MVP is making one hell of a resurgence. Is he not? I mean, this
it's one of the greatest comebacks I've seen in quite some time.
In a very long time, especially for somebody, he's pushing 50, especially for somebody his age. Like him, the two greatest comeback stories, and I honestly think, and I hate to say this, but I honestly think MVP is it's actually faring well more than Edge. But the two greatest comeback stories this year was obviously Edge and I think MVP. And I actually think MVP is kind of kicking Edge's ass as far as a better comeback.
Because Edge came back obviously as the more popular one. That was the big Royal Rumble reveal out of the two of them, even though they were both great. And then Edge kind of like just came in with a bang and then kind of
got injured.
Like with a bit. Yeah, where MVP has been more consistent. It's been kind of like, all right, I'm here. Everyone's excited, and let me slowly build something. And now he's got it with the Hurt Business, which is also, I just realized, I don't know if you're into TNA at all. Or what used to be TNA Impact, but I just
yeah, sure, Vince. TNA
I just learned
all the way
that Hurt Business is kind of a take on a faction that MVP and Bobby Lashley were in Impact, and they first were unnamed. It was the two of them and Kenny King, and they didn't have a name. And then when they switched to like Global Impact, whatever they were, they became the Beatdown Clan or something like that. And apparently they were booked horribly. It was just like they were all talented, but it just didn't work out well. So this is kind of, from what I'm understanding, a better version of the Beatdown Clan, where they're like in suits and just like a lot classier, cleaner, more badass. But it's apparently the roots of this faction kind of stem from their time in Impact Wrestling.
Yeah, and I've heard. Listen, my rebuttal to that is I've had painful boils on my ass that were more enjoyable than anything TNA has ever done. So sorry, I missed that.
Who's a hater? Yeah, not this guy.
Listen, it's you. You are who you keep yourself around. So if I'm a hater, so are you. There we go.
Also, that's
you are your company. Listen, TNA is trash. It's horrible. But no, you're absolutely right, dude. They're killing it right now. Actually, with that being said, were we supposed to talk about some other factions, or that was?
No.
Or we were going into another segment, right?
Yeah, we're going into another segment.
Okay, well, with that being said, let me cap this off with the Hurt Business.
Wrap that gavel up, B.
Right, wrap it up, son. First of all, MVP was supposed to do a one-off. His Royal Rumble thing was supposed to be a one-off, and then he was supposed to become management. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
And then they were like, you know what? Fuck it. They were like, you're young enough. You're still in pretty good shape. You could cut a good promo. Just go out there, cut some promos, have some fun. And then he started doing that so well. And then at one point, they finally were just like, Vince and Triple H came to him like, dude, do you want to do another full run? And he was like, fuck yeah. He probably saw that check too. They probably pulled that money out on him. Was like, look, this is and it's money. So kudos to MVP for making a great resurgence. Listen, they're a modern, even better version of the Nation of Domination, in my opinion. The Nation was a very dominant group. I don't think they were booked all that well. I think they focused too much on the black militant thing because and which is good. I'm all for pro-black things. But as a result of that, there were way too many cringy segments. Way too many cringy segments with the Nation of Domination. So I could have done without it. But as far as the power behind it and the way they looked, with The Rock and D'Lo and Mark Henry and Farouk, even when Owen Hart's white, lily white ass Canadian. You know, he was. Well, you want to talk about a person lost amongst the blackness? You got all these black wrestlers, and then Owen Hart. That's like all of it. That's like I'm trying to think of somebody. That's like fucking. What's the English wrestler? I can't even think of his name right now.
William Regal?
No, not William Regal. The young guy. He's in. He's actually. No, he's on the main Raw. He had the thing back and forth with R-Truth in the 24/7 title. Oh God, why can I not think of his name right now? Not Nigel McGuinness. I can't think of his name. But that's just like that's like Gentleman Jack Gallagher all of a sudden being thrown into the Hurt Business. It's like, what? Where did that come from? You know. So, but it still worked out. And the Hurt Business, I think they're just fine as they are. And we talked about this earlier. I do believe if the crowds were still around and we were pre-COVID still, or COVID had never came around, I think they would probably book them as baby faces probably now at this point because they're getting really good reactions online. So, with that being said, more power to the Hurt Business, and do your thing, man. Do your thing, shouty.
All right. So we know you're not a big fan of Impact Wrestling. AEW is not even arguably. It is a much stronger competitor to WWE than Impact. No Impact did have some moments. They had AJ Styles and Samoa Joe and some cool stuff. But AEW says,
and that's the crazy thing. They had a great roster. So many great people come from TNA. Wow.
So AEW is going along strong. They just recently had a street fight as part of their main event, and JR, who was calling it, and I'll be honest, JR is one of my favorites of all time, but he's not the same JR. He's not calling stuff the same like he used to. Michael Cole has not surpassed him all time, but in terms of 2020, Michael Cole is a better announcer and commentator than JR is right now. But JR called the match with I think Tony Schiavone and Excalibur, and I saw it and it was a lot of fun. It was great, and JR, probably because he had to promote it as such, stated after it was done, it's like, this is the greatest street fight I've ever called in my entire history of calling wrestling matches. Wow. So of course the internet jumps on that and like, oh, that includes WWE. We started going through all these incredible street fights that he called in WWE. Like, what about this? What about this? What about this? So it's one of those things where it's like, yes, I'm not sure if he really believes that, or he's like caught up in the moment, or he really did think it was better than other things. But I figure you and I can maybe go through some of these street fights that he called in WWE that we might put above the AEW street fight as the best of all time.
Yeah, no doubt. Listen, I brought this up earlier. Listen, the man is a loyal employee of AEW. So, of course, he's going to put over the company he's a part of. He can't put over the WWE anymore because he's not part of that family anymore. So he would be an idiot. He's actually, from a business standpoint, being really smart about what he's saying. You know,
he's also doing what they're probably telling him to say too, like really sell this. Say this is like the craziest thing you've ever seen.
They're telling him, look, put over the business you're in right now. Put over the company you're in. So before we get to the one that you and I turns out we both agree is the best. Let's go over some other ones. Let's save that one. We'll do the most talking about that one, but like Triple H tracked Cactus Jack at Royal Rumble 2000. Good one. It
was a really good one. They're trying to think. Triple H versus HBK at SummerSlam 2002.
I have to say, that was a good one. I would have to say even, and it was at WrestleMania 17, the street fight between Vince and Shane. That was actually a pretty good match. That was
really good. That was really fun.
It's storyline-wise, it was really good. You know, that's the whole angle where Linda McMahon was comatose. And remember, she rises out of the chair and kicks Vince in the balls and avenges.
Trish turned face,
and then Shane avenges his mother. So that was a good match as well. I'll put that up there.
Then a little after that, when Shane had kind of turned bad when he was with WCW, and they're both wooing The Rock to come to either WWF or WCW, and Rock chose WWF. Shane fought Rock in a street fight on Raw because he was so besmirched by getting the rock bottom and the people's elbow, and then not basically getting rejected.
Weren't you present? Weren't you present at one of those Rock Shane matches? You told me?
I was present. It wasn't a street fight. I was present for a steel cage match
after
Backlash of 2000, which is the greatest match I've ever seen. Live in person, and that's one of the greatest things I've ever seen. But if you notice a running theme, and I think this kind of ties into what we think the best street fight JR probably has ever called is, Shane McMahon, who's not really a trained wrestler,
is in a lot of these. Honorable mentions to Shane, a lot of them. You know what? You're absolutely right, dude. And you know what's funny? And you just brought it up, and everybody highlights this point. Shane is not. He's become that, but Shane was not initially a wrestler. He was Vince's son. He was management. He was just storyline wise. He played a character. He played the evil genius's evil son. He was basically the mini me. When Shane first came in, he was Dr. Evil. He was Dr.
also
Evil's
like white privilege personified. He was Christian Bale's character from the new Shaft from 2000.
Yeah,
sort of like preppy, white, obnoxious, but thought he was a tough guy.
He had the Mean Street Posse, which were nothing but other bunch of rich, preppy, white, privileged white boys. And they all thought they were tough, and they really weren't. They always got their asses kicked. Everybody always went over them. They always had a job. But Shane persevered through all of that, and I will agree, for a non-wrestler, he is one of the hardest workers in WWE history. And still to this day, he struggles a little bit now. I mean, he's in his 50s, or close to his 50s. And when you watch him wrestle now, he does struggle. But even still now, like, he still does shit that trained wrestlers, and I'm talking about wrestlers that have been in the business. Like, Shane has done Mick Foley, dangerous, reckless type shit. I'll never forget when he dropped 70 feet off the top of that scaffold when he had that match with Steve Blackman at SummerSlam. I think that was SummerSlam 2000 or 99. It was one of those two. And my God.
2000.
I think it was 2000 when that was a good match, but my God, that bump, that specific spot, incredible. Shane's the man.
So why don't you tell us about our favorite street fight of all time, Kurt Angle and Shane street fight at King of the Ring, 2000.
You guys, yes,
2001.
You guys, arguably the greatest in my opinion, and I almost called you Shane. In my opinion, and in Vince's opinion, is arguably one of the greatest street fights in history. What a match that was! To the point they beat each other so bad and did so much reckless shit and so many dangerous spots in that both Kurt Angle and Shane McMahon had to go to the hospital. Like they beat themselves into the hospital. It was amazing. The spots in that, it was a good storyline that led up to that as well, because it was during the whole invasion angle situation, and it was SummerSlam 2001, and they beat the hell out of each other. They really did, and again, like we were saying, like you talk about the person who we've mentioned the most out of all these street fights has been Shane McMahon. And Shane's not even he's a non-wrestler. He wrestles, but he's not a wrestler. He didn't come into the game as a wrestler. And he is killing most wrestlers from a wrestling standpoint. One of the most memorable spots in that match, Vince, you might remember this, was the trying to throw Shane through the King of the Ring logo glass that was at the top of the ramp. Now, as legend has it, the story goes, earlier that day, so they were supposed to put, I believe, like candy glass, like a type of glass that was easy to throw Shane through. But then when the production crew was setting up the set, they thought to themselves, oh shit, we're going to be having pyro set off during this pay-per-view. If we do that, it's going to shatter this weak-ass glass. So, hey, I have an idea. They must have forgot there was going to be a street fight, or they must have forgot about that spot. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. But they were like, hey, I have an idea. Instead of this candy glass, let's put plexiglass. Let's put the hardest fucking glass imaginable. So they put this plexiglass, and of course, unbeknownst to Shane and Kurt, you know, they knew what the spot was. The spot was to get to the top of the ramp, belly to belly, through the glass one time. That's it. And then I think back through the other one, and that was going to be the entire spot.
The other way.
That was going to be the entire spot. So they get to the spot, and by this point, they are beat the fuck up. Mind you, at this point, Kurt Angle has already suffered a broken tailbone from the suplex spot.
And he's already fought twice already. This is his third match that night.
Right. This was a King of the Ring. It was King of the... Oh, no, I said SummerSlam.
Yeah, it was King of the Ring, yeah.
It was King of the... I said SummerSlam earlier. My mistake. It was King of the Ring 2001. He had already did 2 King of the Ring matches earlier that day. You're right. Earlier that same night. So this was the third match he was doing. So he was beat the fuck up. He had suffered a broken tailbone. So by the time they get to the spot, Kurt is already fucked up. And Shane is just as equally as fucked. So he sets him up. You know, he calls a spot. And he tells Shane, hey, get ready. I'm going to toss you the glass. And he hoists him up and suplexes him. And Shane plops right on the glass and slides right down.
On his head.
Looked like some shit from a cartoon. Just boop, boop, and he landed right on his head. And if you watch the match, you could. They don't get a close up, but if they get a shot of kind of Kurt Angle's face as they're like zooming in, and it's totally this look of, oh shit, like why didn't he go through the glass? So Kurt's idea was, you know, because they call spots, they call audibles to each other, unbeknownst to the audience. So Kurt called the spot to Shane and said, look, let's go to the next spot. This isn't working out. Apparently Shane was like, no, fuck you. Called him a pussy. He called him a pussy. You obviously you don't hear any of this. They're calling spots to each other. And Shane says, throw me through the glass, you pussy. And Kurt said he just was like, he was in pain. He wasn't mad at Shane, but he was just like, you're fucking nuts. He's like, okay, you going to call me a pussy? And he fucking hoists Shane again. Shane plops off that glass again, falls right down. Shane tells him to do it again. I think he did it. There was a third time. Third's a charm. And he launched Shane with all his might, and Shane finally went through that glass and cut himself up bad. And now Kurt and Shane are thinking to themselves, shit, I got to go back through the other glass. So they're thinking, well, let's hope they got this portion of the glass right.
And they didn't.
Nope. No, the whole plexiglass as well. Just the same thing. So he goes to give Shane another suplex, belly to belly, and Shane just plops off of it and lands right on his head. And if you notice that when they get to that spot, if you notice, when Kurt tries to throw him to the glass and it doesn't break, and Kurt in that instant realizes, and you see Shane sliding down, Kurt catches him. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah.
Because he knows Shane is about to plop on his head again. So Kurt totally breaks kayfabe, and he's like, oh shit, I'm gonna kill the boss's son. And all the while, he's just like, he kept telling Shane, let's go to the next spot. And finally, Shane just said, just throw me through it, dude. He said, just we're going to do this spot. And Kurt Angle was like, all right, what the boss wants, the boss gets. Keep in mind, Shane technically was his boss. He's a McMahon. The McMahons own the company. So Kurt was like, I'm going to do as my boss told me. So he grabs Shane and just throws him with all his might. And Shane comes flying up that glass. And probably one of the greatest spots in any match. Listen, the match, the finish was great too. It was the Kurt Angle slam off the top of the rope. He set up the whole. It was like a board, like a plank. He set it up, and enough for him and Shane to stand on it. And he set Shane up, and he just fucking dove off that bitch, and Angle slammed him 15 feet. It looked like probably at least a good 10, 15 feet in the air. And Shane says in an interview I saw, he said he was so beat up and was so ready for this match to end. He said as he was flying through the air, he said it felt like an eternity. Him flying through the air, taking that Angle slam, and then 1, 2, 3, the pin. Great match. And they both went to the hospital, by the way, that night. They didn't even get to stay for the pay-per-view. They both went to the hospital. So for me, number one, and for you as well, too, right?
Yeah, and I went back to that.
Other than the ones I
went back to YouTube to double check to make sure that was a street fight and that JR called it, and it was considered a street fight, and JR. And
it was JR, yeah. Other than the ones I mentioned, was there any significant spots? I mean, I kind of nailed the big spots in that match, but there was a couple highlights in that thing, dude.
The only thing I'll say before we kind of wrap this part up is that a buddy of mine who kind of reintroduced me into wrestling in the 90s. Yeah. Then, as soon as he got me into wrestling, backed out of it. It was like, oh, this is loser stuff. And I was like, oh, you son of a bitch, I'm hooked now. You got me hooked on drugs, and now I can't get out. So we watched this pay-per-view at like a local restaurant bar with my dad, and
nice.
he hadn't watched wrestling in a while. I was like, we got to watch this. And he's like, all right, this is stupid, but whatever. And we watched it, and he was like, oh my God. He's like, how are they faking this? And I was like, they're not. Like, they're really beating the shit out of each other. And he's like, this is unreal. Like, he was so impressed with Kurt Angle and Shane McMahon. He's like, this is unreal. And so I was like, got you back. And then he didn't stick around for wrestling that much longer after that. But it was nice to sort of get him back onto wrestling after he got me into it.
Son of a bitch. How dare he? Well, you know, it bees like that sometimes. But yeah, to wrap this up, man, JR is very much entitled to his opinion. And again, it's not so much his opinion. He's doing his job. But, I mean, there's been plenty he's called that are just immaculate. And if somebody were to ask me, and apparently ask you what was the greatest, I would have to go with that Street Fight 2001 King of the Ring.
And he also did a better job of calling it. And granted, it's not fair to compare like JR in his prime
20 years ago.
Like, where he's like, you know, lost his wife. Health problems are probably not like pretty
his
prevalent.
Bell's palsy.
Yeah. So like if you listen to him on AEW, he kind of sits there and he's like, oh, like he just calls it. Like everyone else is like, oh my God, what is this? But he's not the JR of old that we all love. But he was. So in terms of calling it, how he called that street fight at King of the Ring is like 100 times better than how we call this match at AEW. And I think that also helps with the overall presentation of the match. When you have JR like losing his mind, you're like, now I'm invested in this match over this one.
JR used to put over a match so great in the WWE, especially if it involved a wrestler that he had to put over. Obviously, more so the number one Stone Cold. Anything Stone Cold was in, he would just put over. Anything The Rock was in. But even other wrestlers that he didn't favor as much, he just did his job. And he will always be the greatest of all time, in my opinion. He's the GOAT. So with that being said, unfortunately, again, much like how we began the show, we're going to kind of end the show on a somber note, as you would say. You use that word, a somber note. And it's hard to transition from, wrestling, Mark stuff.
Yeah, JR, why aren't you like you used to be? And then...
And basically, you know, having all this energetic wrestling talk. And then we have to, as Eminem said in Lose Yourself, step back to reality. Just recently, we had another tragic loss, which I'm going to kind of let Vince take the reins on this because when it comes to certain political things, he's just a little bit more inclined than I am. I was very familiar with her work. I was very familiar with her life. I didn't know much about her, more so until recently, though. But we just had another horrible loss, Vince. Why don't we...
The Notorious R.B.G., as they call her.
Yeah.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Supreme Court Justice, had been pretty sick for a while. And I know a lot of people who are more liberal were hoping that she would hold on till November in hopes that Trump would be voted out of office. And then if she died or couldn't, if she died, she would be replaced by the new president, who hopefully would be not Trump. But
let's hope.
Unfortunately, I mean, she fought. She's been a fighter her entire life. She is. I'm probably not going to do her any, no pun intended, justice in this little eulogy. But her legacy is that of just being this like strong, determined, sort of beacon of light for strong women. And I've been seeing a lot of my women friends on Facebook post a bunch of different things, including one being like, "Oh, if you're a woman who has their own credit card, who, you know, can like do all these things, have all these rights, like you owe a debt of gratitude to Ruth Bader Ginsburg."
To Ruth,
And even some of my conservative friends are like, it really, not all of them, but some of my conservative friends are even being like, this is like a terrible loss. Like, it really sucks that she's gone. I don't have the stats on this, but I would say like close to 90 or 100% of the women on my Facebook feed are like devastated. Because the implication being, and I don't want to get too much into this, but the implication being that the conservatives, now that Ruth Bader Ginsburg isn't going to be there, they can put one of their people on there, and then they can try and overturn Roe versus Wade. So to make abortions illegal and women can't have rights to their own body, which I know a lot of the women in my life just are whether they're Republican or Democrat, whether no one's pro-abortion, no one likes abortions, but it's something that it's like the government shouldn't have a say in that. And
it's
that's
a woman.
what,
Listen, it's a woman's body, and she can do whatever she wants with it. That's it.
So I know a lot of women who are not feeling great about what's possibly going to come in the next couple months.
You know, I was watching a I don't want to say it was a press conference, but it was like a clip of Trump, who obviously anybody that watched the show or has watched this show knows that me and Vince are.
During the hiatus, I've actually come around. I'm actually CAG, Keep America Great, Trump 2020.
Wow, you need serious therapy, my friend.
I do. I really do. I can't go on with that.
You need to lay off the Ajax, because I done told you. Stop snorting that shit. Yes, folks. Vince is very much jest about that. But me and him neither are Trump supporters. We just, and for obvious reasons, we don't need to get into it. Or as NGK would say, let's talk about it. You know, I was watching this clip of him, I guess the news being broke to him that she had passed away. And there was just, his reaction to it was just so fake, in my opinion. It was just, oh, I didn't know she died. She lived an incredible life. Like, yeah, you don't give a fuck, dude. Yeah. You really don't. It was just, I don't know. It was just, anytime I watch him do anything, but when it comes to certain things, when it comes to Trump being empathic, he's the fakest person to do that action, and it makes me cringe. I didn't like it. And now, granted, what he said is right. I don't think he.
You don't believe it? Yeah.
I don't believe it from him. He's right. She had an incredible life and she passed away. What, at 87? She was almost 90.
87. Yeah.
You know, to be in politics as a woman, in this world we live in, definitely in this white male, conservative dominated, Republican dominated country we live in, that's hard. So just that alone, she was able to persevere through all of that. It's not easy, and to maintain her status as being in that position, it's very hard. She was actually really cute when she was young too. I saw some pictures of her. I was like, wow, she was a cutie.
She was a different type of cute as she got older. She was like old lady, like, oh, you're adorable. Like, she was strong and feisty.
She was like Betty White cute.
Exactly, yeah.
Betty White cute, but it is sad. I mean, obviously, at her age, you got to expect things like this. You do, but it's just.
You knew she was trying. She was trying to like just hold on to a couple more months, and it just wasn't part of the plan.
Yeah, and she is just a part of the long list of piece of shit things that have happened in 2020. She's not a piece of shit. Her dying, I think, that's
her
a piece of shit.
away, yeah.
But her as a human being, she seemed like a very and she was all about it. Listen, I'm all for, especially being a black man, I'm all for equality. So anybody that stands up for that and advocates for that is good in my book, and that's what she did. But she is just part of a long list of horrible things that have just happened this year, between Chadwick, Kobe, his daughter, COVID, her passing away, Sean Lewis. I think Little Richard passed away this year. I forgot about that. I was just like, wow, what a horrible fucking year this has been. And she's just, another one, that has to suffer the fate of this horrible year. So rest in peace to her, though. And thank you, Vince, for giving even me, myself. I always like to be educated, and I don't come off, when we do Popcorn and Booze, I try not to come off as this person that knows it all. Even though I do. I mean, come on, let's be honest. It's me.
I don't think you give off that impression at all. At all.
Yeah, I'm perfect.
Like, not even a little bit.
Well, that's something a hater would say, to perfection. But
I'm just being honest. When someone takes honesty as hater, that's a hater move.
Well, so listen. When I need your opinion, I'll ask my bed.
Ask your what? I didn't hear
I'll ask an inanimate object is basically what I'm saying when I want somebody's opinion, unlike yours. But anyway, all joking aside, no, thank you for giving me, because I didn't have that much of an insight on this woman, and you've actually enlightened me to a lot of things that I did not know about, and stuff I've read as well. And I appreciate the fact that she advocated for equality, and she was a woman that was able to persevere in a male-dominated world. That's hard. And we're men. And that's not easy for us as men to say, but it's the truth.
I'm a white man. I'm a white straight
and a white man
man.
on
Like
top of that.
I've got it good.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not an easy thing to admit when you're a cis white male. It's not, but it's true. You know,
it should be real easy to admit, because it's like,
yeah. Well, this is
because then I guess because like, it's not like, then it's like, don't dismiss my struggles. Like, I'm not saying I haven't struggled. I'm just saying, like, in the grand scheme of things, and the fact that I'm American, it's like I've kind of got a winning lotto ticket. I'm not saying to rub it in. It's just like,
no, you're not. But here's the thing:
it's a lot easier.
It would be a problem if you did not acknowledge it. I think that's where the problem is, when white people don't acknowledge their privilege. So the fact that you're acknowledging it is a step towards making this better, because you know yourself that's a problem that needs to be fixed in America. But thank you for enlightening me about this woman, and I want to do more research on her, and maybe even talk more about her, in the further episodes we do. But
I'm sure politically wise, like her death is going to have a lot of ramifications to a lot of news stories that we might have to touch on later.
And as much as they don't want to admit it, the conservatives and the Republican Party, to them, as horrible as may sound, and a lot of people that are from that right-wing side of the track would probably disagree and just say that I'm being just this liberal, outspoken, pro-black man that just likes to speak. No, these are facts. And to them, this is kind of a slam dunk. Because like you said, they can now bring in one of their own, and that could cause a lot of problems. That could cause a lot of problems. So I personally like to acknowledge that. And rest in peace to her, though. And she lived an incredible life. And that's, unfortunately, as somber as it is, that is how we're going to end the show. Do you have any last parting words, good Vince?
Nope.
About
I think we've said it all. We should try and get our energy back up for the close.
I know it's hard. It's hard. Yeah, this for the folks that are watching, like I said earlier, it's just we didn't get to talk about these issues because we were on a hiatus. Chadwick passed away while we were on a hiatus. She passed away just the other day. We were on a hiatus. This is our first episode back, so we just wanted to touch on it. But you're right. This is still a great show about energy and pop culture and all the great fun wrestling stuff we do. So, with that being said, you guys, guess what? You've made it to season 2. Yay! Woo!
Yay!
Season 2. Season. The thing white people don't do to their food. Oh!
Wait, look here.
Oh, wait, but you got some Latin in you, so you... Oh, there it is.
No, I definitely... mostly Old Bay from Maryland.
Oh, that's right. There you go.
Just dump it on Old Bay all the time.
That's what's up. But you guys, yes, you made it to season 2, and unfortunately, we have to wrap it up. First episode. So, with that being said, I just inadvertently said one of my rap catchphrases. That's one of my trademarks. So. There you go. Thanks. See, Vince, that's why I appreciate this, man. He knows my shit. He knows my shit better than me sometimes. I've said this before. There's like shit you'll bring up, and I'll be like, wait, I did that? I'm like, oh, shit, right. You did. You're right. I did do that. But you guys, yes, I am him. I am the jet flying, limousine riding. Well, not yet. Hopefully one day I can own a jet in a limo. I'm not quite there yet. But listen, when The Rock and Ric Flair say it, well, The Rock has his own version. But, when Ric Flair says it, it's great. But when The Rock says it, he's the pie-eating, jabroni beating, and I'm the tip-tapping, hip-hopping, skip-scopping Maximilian, one and only, host with the most. And I like to eat toast. I just don't put guacamole on that bitch. LAREN Maxstar Moore.
I'm the Cedric Alexander equivalent. I don't care for the fact that you call yourself the one and only, so I will be turning on you and joining a great big faction, Vince Eustace.
He's going to be that one white guy in the Hurt Business that we were talking
about.
Oh, you guys.
Enough
yes, you guys.
is enough. It is time for a change.
I remember when Jason the Sensation used to do those impressions of Owen Hart.
Oh, yeah,
that was hilarious.
Yeah.
But yes, you guys, yes, you've made it to Episode 1, Season 2 of The Greatest Show on Earth. I don't care what none of you say. I'm going to put my show over because it's my show and we love it. So, yes, you have reached Season 2, Episode 1 of Popcorn
and Booze.
So, bye-bye. We love ya. Gotta go. See ya. Love ya. Bye-bye. Yay. Woo.